Okay, welcome to the Empowered Living Show. I'm so glad everybody's here watching. We have a special guest today. Her name is Sandylu Guerrero, and she's going to be talking about the power of choice. And I'm really excited for this topic because it's a really big one. And I think it's really overlooked too. So I just want to tell you a little bit about the Empowered Living Show. This show is mainly for women, but it's for anybody. We have a lot of men that come in here and really like to talk, but it's giving you the tools that you need to feel empowered in your life, because life has so many possibilities, and a lot of times we don't see all the possibilities. So my guests come on and they talk about their story of how they became empowered and how they now help other people become empowered through their gifts, through the way that they do it, unique way that they do it. So today we have Sandylu Guerrero, and Sandylu, let me just tell you a little bit about Sandylu. She is life's choice coaching, and she was born and raised in Boyle Heights, California in 1973. She's a life coach who got most of her schooling through the School of Hard Knocks. And her journey to becoming a life coach started through her own self-development and transformational journey at the age of 36. Having experienced so much tragedy and loss in her life, she found herself in a very dark place where she knew that she needed some help. And she'd been carrying years of pain from being sexually abused as a child, living with an alcoholic mom who suffered from depression, a father who also struggled with depression, living in poverty, unhealthy relationships with men, the death of her brother due to a random freeway sniper shooting, being robbed at gunpoint, one divorce which became physically violent, a second marriage that ended in divorce due to her struggles with her low self-esteem, and 2 miscarriages and the loss of her mother due to medical negligence. Now, on November 11th, 2009, she began her transformational journey that forever changed her life. She began what was a 6-month self-development workshops, and it was there that she found her passion for life and living. She learned that she could use all of her past experiences to help people, and she began taking additional trainings to learn how to become a coach, and she was mentored by a world-renowned and published transformational trainer that travels around the world. She volunteered in workshops as much as she could as a coach for almost 2 years straight while coaching leadership trainings, and soon after leading them. And since then, she has been coached coaches to facilitate coaching for transformational leadership training. At the end of 2012, she began her business, Life's Choice Coaching, where she started coaching people one-on-one in supporting them with their personal and professional goals. And soon after that, she started and facilitated a women's coaching group called Women's Revival Group. I love that. And her vision for these groups was to empower women to embrace everything about themselves and create the life of their dreams. In her past struggles and the challenge that her mother had with low self-esteem that she had, she wanted to make sure that all women knew that they matter and what they want matters and that they are worthy. Sandylu's current venture is bringing emotional intelligence workshops to organizations and businesses. Her purpose is to create healthy, supportive environments that are forwarding in creating personal and professional growth. And she's currently writing a book on responsibility and ownership, in which she finds to be the key to personal freedom. Sandylu is a very passionate person, and she's passionate about what she does. She's chosen to use all of her life's experiences and all of her trainings to make a positive difference in the world. She's committed to empowering as many people as she can through transparency, authenticity, her love for life, and her love for all of mankind. Welcome, Sandylu.
Thank you, Lisa. It's such a pleasure to be here. I thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
I'm really happy that you're here.
Great.
Yeah. So we learned a lot about you in your introduction. Is there anything that you want to add that could help us maybe help the listeners? Because you've gone through a lot of tragic stuff, and a lot of people have that stuff in their background that they don't want to talk about. Mm-hmm. And in your coaching, it sounds like that's kind of the stuff that you bring out. You want to talk a little bit about
I
that?
do. Well, one of the things that I do is I use my own personal experiences to support people. I think that through the training I've gotten and my own personal experiences, it allows me to be able to dig deeper, to understand people in a more profound level, given that I can relate to various experiences or emotions. But my life, I've had a lot of challenges, many challenges, and many times I just felt like I'm done. Like I can't handle one more thing, and then another thing would happen, and then I would find some way, somehow I would keep moving forward. I don't know how, and unconsciously I didn't realize I was constantly making the choice,
Right.
to moving forward, even no matter how difficult it was. Like with my brother was 5 days from his 22nd birthday when he was killed by a random freeway sniper shooting. My father and him were in the same vehicle. My dad and him had switched seats, so you can only imagine the pain my dad carried.
Yeah.
And my brother and I were really close. He was my best friend. Like, we did everything together, and I was his protector and things like that. And it was very devastating. It was really hard for me to deal and cope. And at the same time, I suppressed a lot because I always took the lead role in my family. So I also had to handle things for the family to make sure things got, arrangements, things, funds that needed to be, et cetera, insurance, you name it. So there was a lot of not dealing with my emotions, like really dealing with them. Same thing when my mom passed. My mom was an alcoholic. So my mom fell on Mother's Day. Like, I can tell you, like, these days, some of these days are not very easy for me, even to this day. I have my moments. But she fell on Mother's Day, and 3 days later, she had a severe headache. And we took her to the hospital. They thought she was drunk because her blood alcohol level was high, and they basically left her to die, and she ended up having a brain hemorrhage. That's what was happening. So I realized that at all those moments, I could have chose hate. I could have chose anger. I could have chose, the pain was going to be there, and and I'm not going to say that the pain is gone and I don't experience it, because that's unrealistic. Like, the void is there, and I find joy and gratitude in being able to help other people, knowing that we can still live with that. It doesn't have to become us. It doesn't have to take over our life, but at the same time, I have a choice. So through those experiences, I could choose to to think that the world is ugly. I could choose to think that everybody's a racist. I could choose to think everybody discriminates, and so on and so forth, and just think all these ugly things, and of course keep attracting more of it because I'm thinking that, right? But I made these choices unconsciously at the same time to look at things in a positive way. I didn't realize that. How could I look at it different? When my brother passed, it was like, I'm going to live the best that I can to honor him. Did I feel like my world ended and I wanted to die? Definitely. I just wanted to die. Like, I just, eat me now. Like, it was pretty hardcore, especially so sudden, so traumatic, so not expected. Some days when I speak about it, it's as a matter of fact. And some days when I speak about it, I physically feel that trauma still. And it's a process, but I've made a conscious choice that I get to live the best that I can by honoring. I honor him by living, by not giving up and I quitting, no matter how challenging it could be. The days that I felt like I'm crawling to the next step, to the next moment, and things like that. So everything is about choice. And I didn't realize it until I took trainings that opened my eyes to how I was living and what I was choosing. Not to say that I wasn't living as a victim, because I was, but I did do something where I masked my pain with anger. So I was very angry. So even though I was loving the people that are closest to me, like i.e. my ex-husband, my siblings, my dad at the time, like, they got to see the angry, crazy lady,
the people closest to us.
Yeah, that struggled, but no one knew how to tell me, you're in pain, or even they were too afraid to tell me if they thought it, if they did think it, right? So it's pretty interesting and crazy. Like, I just, I'm always reflecting, and as I'm coaching different people, different things in my own life come up, because it's hard to not connect certain things or certain events. And then just realizing how I've made these choices that no matter what, I have never give up. I've never given up, and I still keep making the choice to move forward and making the choice to keep going for what I want. And if that's not if I find myself somewhere where I know that it's not for me, it's not, it's not alignment who I am and what my purpose is, and then I move on to the next thing until I find what I'm passionate about. Because it's my life. I'm alive, and so I get to live it the best that I possibly can. So that's, I could go on and on, Lisa.
Well, I'm curious. I'm curious because you bring a lot of really good points up, but tell me how, if somebody's at that really, really dark place where they really just don't think that they're not even thinking they have a choice. They're just thinking maybe poor me. Maybe they don't think poor me, but maybe that's like the space that they're in is like, why does this stuff happen to me all the time? Or why did this happen? And I can't deal with it. How do you bring choice in so it makes sense to somebody like that?
Well, one thing that is really important, and I tell people, who you surround yourself by is going to make all the difference. It's so important. I don't think people realize how important it is to have a circle of friends, a circle of trust, if you want to call it, of people that will be honest with you, but are not coming from a judgmental way, not coming from beat up or make wrong or things like that, but that genuinely care for you and love you, and that will say, hey, you know what? I know you're struggling, but you got to get up, and pull them until they're ready to get up. It's not easy. I tell people, the longer you stay in it, the harder it is to get out of it. So those days that you feel like you're stuck in feeling sad and feeling like a victim, and you're feeling, it is what it is, you feel like a victim, you feel you're being a martyr, and we don't like hearing those words. I don't like, I remember my dad would say, you're being a victim, and I would be like, no, I'm not,
yeah, because they're trigger words, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. They totally are. Now I could say, you know what, I'm feeling like a victim right now, and I could own that. Now so it changes the whole experience, right? But it's really being able to tell people, one is having that circle, and the other is that there's one point when people realize that it's like, I can't live like this anymore, and I got to do something. And sometimes, unfortunately, we wait till we hit rock bottom. Yeah. And the thing is that it doesn't have to be that way. So it's all choice, it's all choice, but who you surround yourself with is so important, because they're going to either empower you or disempower you. Right. Or go along with you. We'll have a victim party, let's have a victim pity party all together. And because yeah, me too. And you too. And, it just goes on and on. Like, we call it, you buy my BS, I buy your BS. Like, it's just a never ending, and we don't get ahead. Like
gossip.
Yeah, exactly. But we don't get ahead. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So how can you become aware of some of the choices that you have in your life?
Well, one thing I think, is asking ourselves questions. So, as a coach, I ask questions, right? So one of the things that my coaches have trained me is our part of what we learn is to be a self-cleaning oven. So how do I do that? I ask myself questions, not what am I feeling, but what am I experiencing right now? What is it that I'm making up right now? What is it that I'm interpreting? So I'm asking myself questions. I'm not asking why, because when I go into why, I'm going to find a way to defend why I feel the way I do. And it's not going to give me answers that are going to forward me. It's very unlikely, not to say it's not possible, but it's not it's not a question that's very forwarding. So you're going to ask yourself, what is it that I'm experiencing right now? Like, what is it about what that person said or did? What is it that really bothered me? Was it really about what they did, or did it trigger something from the past that I haven't dealt with? And being aware. So now that allows us to become self-aware. So when we become self-aware, then we can make different choices. So it's really asking ourselves these questions, like, what am I experiencing right now? What is my interpretation of what's happening at this moment? Where is this pain or this sadness really coming from? Sometimes, us women, we're hormonal. We have our moments where our hormones are just crazy, and that time of the month, and we're emotional and or we're very angry, right? You know, like the worst thing someone could tell us is like, oh, don't listen to her, she's PMSing or whatever, right? She's writing it. We hate that word too, right? But it's true. But the thing is that those things that we're experiencing during those times of when our hormones are crazy, they're not things that just popped up because we're hormonal. They're things that we already felt inside. We just weren't dealing with it. So what it does, it doesn't allow us to control it. So here it comes. Yes. Here it comes. And then we're all, you know, like, and then everybody's like, beware, you know, or, you know, we're very emotional. So it's different for everybody. And so that gives us an idea, like, this is something I really get to address.
Yes.
You know, this is something I really get to address. And we don't realize that, hey, this is not just the time of the month. It's like, this is something, there's so much more to this. And there's something I got to address with this.
Yeah. And I think that you bring up a really good point about, how we take care of ourselves and how we cope with things. Getting to the point where you are, where you're able to feel the feelings that you're feeling, mm-hmm. and acknowledge them and say thank you and let them go, instead of holding them in, which is what makes us sick. That's what makes us, you know, sick. It's holding in all those feelings. So having the choice, knowing that you have the choice, becoming aware that you have the choice to let them out is really, really important.
Yes, definitely. And it's like, it's really about allowing yourself to experience the experience. You know, how often do you see someone, they get emotional and they're going to cry, and someone says, oh, don't cry, you know, because it makes them uncomfortable and they don't want to, but the thing is that crying is healing. We got to let it out. So we get to allow ourselves to experience the experience, because every time we suppress, even if we're angry, like if we're angry, then we get to express we're angry. Yes, we don't get to be chaotic and create more chaos and drama in our life. It's unnecessary. But at the same time, do we need to write it down? Is there someone we need to speak and say, hey, this is what I experienced and this is how I'm feeling? You know, how do I, learning different ways of expressing ourselves in a responsible way. But at the same time, we get to experience our experience, because when we don't, it just builds up and builds up and builds up. And either it becomes where your spirit dies, internally, you just shut down, or you're a ticking time bomb. Exactly. And it sounds crazy, but, if you see the news, which it's been crazy the last few days. You see the news when things happen. It's like, this didn't just happen in the moment. Like, this has built up. It didn't just happen out of nowhere. So if we can deal with our emotions in a healthy way, if we can allow ourselves to experience our emotions in a healthy way, then we're one person that's walking, that's in peace in our world. That's one less person that's angry, one less person that's a ticking time bomb, one less person that's abusive to other people, you name it.
Yeah. And so talk about that piece of ownership, because I think that's really, that's such an important piece. You've got to, like, one of my girlfriends always said, own your shit, right? You've got to own what is going on in your life, because you have the choice to change it. Can you speak to that?
I love it. Yes, exactly. Own your shit. Definitely. So when we don't own it, then we're a victim of something or someone else. Yeah. Which makes us completely powerless. Okay, let's just say it. You're just not in your power. You gave it away to a circumstance, to a situation, to a person, to your job, to the traffic. I mean, you name it. You gave it away. You're powerless. There's nowhere to move forward from there. And if you do, it's going to be probably chaos. So if I own what I'm experiencing, if I'm owning, like, even the interpretation, because things are interpretations. A lot of everything is an interpretation of how I experience things, of how I see things, my idea of what, common sense is. So it's all an interpretation. But when I'm in ownership of, what, I chose that. Like, I realized that I sabotaged X, Y, and Z. I did it. I chose it. Then I'm not a victim. Yeah. And that gives me back my power, because now I know if I want to stay in that situation, then I'm also choosing it from a powerful place, right? And even if I'm choosing to be a victim, I'm choosing it, and I'm aware that I'm choosing it, and I'm not blaming it on everybody. I'm like, oh, for me, but I'm still knowing I'm being, like I'm choosing that. And when and then if I make the choice to do something different that's going to forward me, then I know I made that choice. But ultimately, I have my power.
Yeah, no, that's important. I just want to bring something up really quick that I was thinking about today. This whole movement of women's they're calling it women's empowerment, but it's really women's rights. It's like equality, women equality. And it kind of bugs me because if you look at everybody's getting on the bandwagon about equality for women, but that's the victim mode. That's, we get to say, if we want a raise, we get to prove that we're worth a raise. And I think women and men, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. I just had to bring that up because I was thinking about that today, and it kind of bothers me that there's so many people and even so many celebrities that are on that bandwagon of, pay women the same amount. It's like, it's up to us. It's up to each individual person to state their worth. Do you understand?
Yeah, I think there's so much to that. There's so much to that. I think that at the same time, there is still a lot of discrimination, and I see it. And even I go to a lot of networking events, and I see it, all the time. But at the same time, I think part of the thing that doesn't work is that some people just don't take responsibility and ownership for where they're at.
Right.
Period. And it doesn't, whether it's a male or a female, we just don't take responsibility of where we're at in our life and where we're not, right? Where we're not. and then we make it about, discrimination. Yeah. And it's not necessarily the truth all the time. It is at times. Yes, I'm not going to say it isn't, but it's not the truth all the time. But I use that as my scapegoat of why I don't have what I want, or I'm not doing what I want, or, etc. Us women are extremely powerful. We're so powerful. And if we choose to take ourselves on into being uncomfortable and being comfortable, being uncomfortable, we could create whatever we choose. And so we don't need the man to pay us what, for us to be waiting for them to do it for us.
Right.
And vice versa. It's the same thing. So it's a choice. We really get to really embrace who we are as women and the power that is within us. Think about it. As women, we could think about a million things at one time. Men could only think one thing at a time. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because men, we all have our own powers, and we use them differently. But just think of just with our own thoughts, what we could create and the things that we could do ourselves, like what we could create if we take action on it.
Yeah, no, this is a time, I think this is a really exciting time. There's so many women that I meet that are doing women's empowerment things. And it's not because we're women's rights and we want to burn our bras. It's not about that anymore. It's about changing the world and lifting the consciousness and having more love and ownership, like you talk about. So tell me about how you help people embrace themselves so they really love themselves instead of judging.
Well, one is really telling them that they really get to practice self-compassion. We're so horrible to ourselves sometimes. We're our worst enemy. We torture ourselves. We punish ourselves. We live in regret. We live in fear. We live in the past. We live in what is and what isn't, and we don't practice self-compassion. And we'll do it for other people, but we don't do it for ourselves. So one is start with me. Self-compassion. Like I can say, okay, I've gone through a lot in my life. Like I get to be easier on myself. Like. I can look back, if I look back and I look now and I'm like thinking, why am I not where I want to be? Or why isn't my business where, why am I doing it now at 42 or, things like that. I look at that or realize like, you know what? I had some major challenges. I'm lucky that I didn't give up and just hang myself. And I've had my moments where it got that extreme where I thought it. So it's really practicing self-compassion, and knowing that you are, acknowledging you are not your story,
Yeah.
and you are not your circumstances.
Yeah.
You're not your story. You are not your circumstances, and embracing that everything that you've done or not done in your life has been done in the level of consciousness at that time. You did the best that you knew how at the time with what you knew.
Yes.
And then embracing that that's exactly the same thing that everyone else did that might have hurt you in any kind of way.
Yeah, that's really a good point, because I think even though you try not to have those self-defeating thoughts in your head, even though you try not to say, oh, I should have, or I shouldn't have, or, we, even if we know that it's hard, but at the end of the day, if you can love yourself, if you can say, I offer love and compassion to myself, and I really have done a great job, and really think about all the things, be grateful for all the things that you have accomplished and where you're at. I think that makes such a big difference. Even if you're saying it to yourself, I mean, it doesn't have, it is, we are on our own journey.
We are. And, and you said the key word, gratitude. So one of the other things is gratitude. It's like when I'm grateful for everything that I have and I don't have, everything that is and everything that isn't, then everything changes. And I can say that even as heartbreaking and challenging, my life has been in so many different ways. At the same time, I find gratitude in knowing that I learned a lot from it to be able to help people. Mm-hmm. And I do, like I actually do, and I'm grateful to be able to have snapped out of my victim story and snapped out of being a victim my whole life. And now I could focus out and make a difference with what I learned. I say, I think that I went through just enough of a lot of things to be able to understand people in a profound way. So we all have that opportunity to make the choice to think that way.
Yeah,
it takes practice. So yes. it takes practice, and it's like deprogramming and restructuring thoughts. And one is language, the words that I choose, the questions that I ask myself, the questions I ask other people, how I choose to see other people. People are very quick to judge, but are you practicing compassion? Do you realize that their thoughts and actions are based on how they interpret things and their own personal past experiences? And those kind of things. And, as an individual, is embracing. I tell people, you get to embrace the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we all have it. And whoever says you don't, you're lying. You're not human. You're not human. But if we embrace all of it, then you see less of your ugliness, right? Then you're operating from a different level of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And you show up in a different way. And like it's karma, like what we're putting out is going to come back. And it doesn't always look the way we want. So we practice detachment. That also gives us peace, right? I mean, there's so much that we can do that it's little, I tell people, it's subtle little changes in the way we think or the way we speak. I have, often I do my women's group coaching, and with my women, it's like a lot of it is really getting them to be in gratitude. Part of what makes them unhappy is that they don't realize they have so much to be grateful for. And, of course, along with, they have the power to choose, what they want. But I have them journal at night. Look, you get to write a few sentences of what you're grateful for. In the morning, you just write one sentence. I'm grateful to be alive. And that's it, and it sounds really small and minor. Some people could think, oh, that's so airy-fairy and, whatever. Yeah. But try it. I bet you think differently in a few days.
Yeah. No, I that's really good. I love to journal, and I think, oh, darn, it just slipped my mind. What was I going to say? One of the things I was going to say is, you brought up a point a few minutes ago about, being in the past and being in the present. And I just wanted to mention that being in the present, not in the past or not in the future, not, what I should have done or worrying about what's going to happen. Being present is where bliss is. And we can always have that choice to be present and just take that moment just right now. Because when you are in the moment, when you are just present, nothing else matters. There is nothing else. And that's where bliss happens, right? That is the point of bliss. But I was going to ask you, darn it, I was going to ask you a question about something else. That's what happens.
I know. Well, hey, so much in our head. But like, just to speak into what you're saying, it's like, it is, would have, could have, should have. And I say this all the time. And I was like, I got to do a video on just would have, could have, should have. But really, would have, could have, should have is never going to change anything. Yeah. It's a way to live as a victim. It's a way to live and beat up. It's a way in a way that's never going to forward you. So would have, could have, will never work. Now, if I'm going to look into the past, it's like, what worked? What didn't work? What could I have done differently? Those are powerful, empowering, forwarding questions. What worked?
Yes.
What didn't work? What could I have done differently?
Yeah. What are the possibilities?
Yes, exactly.
What are the possibilities now?
Exactly. Yeah. And coming from that place, when we start asking ourselves these questions, they're forwarding questions. And this you could apply in everything in your life, whether if it's your business, if something's not going right, what's working, what's not working. If you met your numbers and it worked out really well, it's like, okay, what did we do this time that worked? What worked? Mm-hmm. Let's bring more. Okay, so what could we have done differently? Because there's always something we could, maybe we could take it onto a new level. So what didn't work? It's not about a beat up. It's not about a make wrong. It's not about let me judge the past. It's like, what can I learn from the past to forward me?
Life is an experiment. That's all it is, right?
It is. And it could be an amazing journey. It's up to us.
I know. I remembered what I was going to say. What I was going to say is anytime you're feeling bad about your situation, one of the best ways to get out of that is to be in service to somebody else or something else, or to do something that is not about yourself, right? It's like, go do mow your neighbor's lawn, or take whatever it is that's not centered on you. And that goes back to what you were saying, is you help people with your experience. That is your healing. That's how you heal through your journey, is by helping others and teaching them, so they don't have to go through the hardships, or they might have smaller bumps in the road, whatever. But anytime we're doing something for somebody else, we forget about ourselves. And so we get out of that poor me stage, that I can't do it, or my life's crap kind of phase. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to mention that, because I think that's really powerful.
And it's the idea of, when in doubt, focus out. When you're stuck in your own stuff, like you said, when you're stuck in your own shit, you got to get out. The way out is to focus out. So help someone, make a difference, make dinner for your neighbor, or be neighborly, right. Do a random act of kindness. I do the whole, when pay for the person behind me and drive through type of thing. And funny thing is that I had that happen back to me. Someone paid for me. So, karma, right? What are the odds? I was like, what are the odds? It baffles me, but it's like whatever I put out, like, what are the odds, right? But yeah, you're right. And the other thing though is just to be aware, because sometimes people do help other people and they focus out because they're in their stuff, but then they do it so much that they're avoiding themselves. Right. So you really got to know the balance between the two, and it's really being self-aware, like just checking in with myself. Am I doing that to avoid me? Am I doing that and taking away from me? Am I compromising myself and what I need and what I got to do for myself? So those are kind of questions we ask yourself. Again, not why, but what is this coming from? What am I experiencing?
Yeah, no, I love everything that you've said. And I wrote that down. When in doubt, focus out. I've never heard that before.
I've heard it many times. I've had some amazing coaches and trainers, so I love it. I'm a sponge. I tell people I'm a sponge. I learn from everybody. I learn from my students. I learn from everybody. I'm a forever student of people, period. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. So do you have anything else to say about the power of choice?
I want to say that, it is really that being clear that when we are in ownership of our choices, then it really supports us in a positive, empowering way. It supports a relationship with ourselves, number one. It supports our relationships with other people and our businesses, whatever we want to create for ourselves, our businesses, etc. If we're clear that we have been choosing the results one way or another, then there's no reason to be a victim or not to be caught up in it, right? It's forwarding. It's forwarding. So if you really want to keep moving forward, stand in ownership of the fact that you chose it. And it could be an interpretation. Someone could tell you, to go F yourself, right? And you can choose to be really angry and go attack them, or you could choose to say, gosh, poor guy, man, he must be really angry, Yeah, I feel bad for him. I wonder if there's anything I could do for him to make him feel better, whatever he's really experiencing, right? So, but I'm the chooser. I choose. And one thing that I've learned from my experience is like we are as powerful as our interpretations. We're powerful as our interpretations. So whatever interpretation we choose is either going to hold us back or forward us. Yeah.
And we get to choose.
Yeah. Yeah. We get to choose.
Yeah. We get to choose whatever we want to think.
Yep.
If I say this is blue, that's my blue.
Yep.
Right? I mean, you get to choose anything. That's perfect. I love that. Now, I didn't ask you this before, but do you have a gift for our listeners?
Right now, actually, I do have a free consultation that they can call and set an appointment, or they can go on my website and set up an appointment there. But I do offer a free consultation, a 45-minute consultation, so they could choose. It's really a coaching session, and it's a great way to start getting ideas of what is it that you want to work on, what things are you struggling with, do you want one-on-one coaching? Do you want me to go to your business, your organization? Do you want to join my women's group? I have women's groups that are ongoing. So I have a 6-week program, and it's actually 7 weeks with a 6-week session, 6 sessions. And so the women get to participate in there. That's what they want to work on. So it's a great opportunity just to get an idea of what, one is what I do and how I could support them. And two, it gives them an idea of like, what is it that maybe they don't realize where they're stuck? They just feel they need something. Sometimes we feel like I need something. I don't know what, but I need something. Let me try this, and then you realize, wow, it could be life-changing.
No, that's great. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link. Let me get this up here. So listeners can go here. I just put it into the chat section to the Empowered Living Facebook group. And I will put your link in the file area and your website link as well. And the replay link. So you'll have those so people can go to the file section in that Facebook group. And if you're not a member, just request to join. It's a public group. So so go see Sandylu and check out the power of choice, because it's so very important. And we have a choice. And even though you don't think you might have a choice, you always have a choice. And that's Sandylu's thing. That's her specialty. So go check her out. And any last
I just want to say
words?
Thank you for having me. It's been great. Any way that I can spread the word about the power of choice, any way that I can support, empower anybody, women, men, etc. I don't discriminate. I'm here to support and empower people, and thank you for your collaboration in making that difference. I really appreciate it. I think that it's so important that we support one another and that we support other women that are moving forward in this movement of empowerment and empowering each other. This is a great time for us to really expand and really hold hands and hold each other high and push each other to our highest possibilities. So anyways, I just want to say, remember that no matter what life brings you, that you always have a choice. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sandylu. This is great. This is perfect. I love this subject. I love the power of choice. It's been very important to me in that was one of the turning points in my life, is when I realized I have a choice at every single moment of every day, how to respond, how to react. So very powerful. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Ms. Nagy, for helping us. Yes, and thank you all the listeners. And the replay will be available probably tomorrow. It takes a long time to render. So the replay,
Thank
as
you.
well.
Thank you, ladies.
Okay, thanks so much.
Bye.
I'll talk to you later. Bye. So I'm kicking you out. Just resume recording. Yeah. So let me try it, okay?
Okay.
Any ideas? Yeah.
And it's recording.
I don't know. It usually shows up when you, maybe I'll hang up first since you recorded.
Okay.
Let me hang up and see. And then
Okay. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Now.